This is Inside the Right. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, longtime Republican operative, Tim Miller. So, Tim, there is new reporting out now from the New York Times that Donald Trump supports a 16-week abortion ban. Here's what I'm not understanding. Knowing the damage that this issue in particular has wrought on the Republican Party since the moment that Dobbs was handed down, what's he thinking?
Well, Trump has had this sixth sense. Let's just start here. Donald Trump doesn't really care about banning abortion, right? I think that's obvious. We all know it. Now, he's still responsible for the fact that Roe v. Wade got overturned and that abortion has been banned, and so that doesn't abdicate him of any of that responsibility. But inside his brain, he doesn't care about this issue. He's probably paid for some abortions. Let's just be honest, right?
Wouldn't doubt it.
And I have friends. I have a friend who told me a story from. He was working for a different Republican candidate. He's on the Trump airplane, and they're going from one campaign to another. And Trump, this is years ago, and Trump's banding around back then, like, do we really have to do all this abortion stuff? Like, he knows in his lizard brain that this is a loser for Republicans, and he doesn't care about it personally. So he's desperate to come up with some kind of art of the deal type situation that gets him out of this bind. And I think that the 16-week ban proposal is the latest effort at that, and I think that it's a pretty bad effort at it.
Why is there any urgency to say anything? The guy is up 40 points from Nikki Haley. Like, why does he have to do anything on this issue? He's already won, basically, as far as his own party's concerned.
I think that's right, and that's why you've already seen some backtracking among some in Trump world to say, "Oh, this is fake news. This is fake news," because probably the sweet spot for Trump politically on this is to just be vague. Just be like, well, I'm going to cut a good deal, and some of these Republicans went too far, and some of them are really extreme, and but we did so good with the judges. It's just like Trump, nonsense talk is really probably his sweet spot, because people, there's certain voters that sense that he isn't as rigid on this as like a Mike Johnson or some Ted Cruz or whatever. So that's probably his sweet spot, but I think that he's worried about it, right? And so he's banding around these ideas. What did it say in the Times thing that he liked 16 because it was an even number?
Nice even number. He likes that. That's how he was making his policy proposals. 4 weeks. 16 weeks, 4 months. Nice round number.
4-4. There's some balance there, some symmetry. So I think that's probably what is happening here, is that he is kicking this around. It gets leaked, and maybe the person that's leaking it is trying to talk him out of it. It's sometimes hard to do. The Kremlinology of Trump world is sometimes hard to figure out, because you might not realize that there might be one advisor and who doesn't want him to do something, and that they speak to Trump through the media, right? Because a lot of these people are cowards. They don't have the balls to actually say to Trump personally that I think it's a dumb idea. So it's possible that's kind of what I see happening, but I think he's grasping around for anything, and this is the latest example.
Do you think you mentioned that Trump kind of presents himself as a moderate, deep down on this issue, but at the same time, this is the guy who's responsible for the most conservative abortion rulings, legislation, in our country's history. And he's come out and said, we wouldn't have Roe v. Wade overturned without me. He's come out and said that I'm the person responsible for appointing a third of the Supreme Court, which is why we have Dobbs in the first place. Do you think, why do you think that dichotomy exists? And do you think it'll persist into the election, where somehow he gets credit for being a moderate, because we know he doesn't care about anything at the end of the day, but at the same time, he's willing to go to the wall for this stuff. He has been more conservative on abortion than any president we've had in our lifetimes.
I think it's going to be hard for it to persist, because the Democrats are about to spend $500 million making sure everybody knows that he's responsible for all of this.
And have podcasts like this one where we talk about
it. So I think it's going to be hard for it to persist. His hope, I think, is that it persists among the lowest information voters, your most casual voters, that really their sense of Trump is just kind of like the persona that they see on social media, and they're not huge news consumers. And so I think that is their hope, that they can kind of maintain that persona with some small percentage of low information swing voters, and maybe that's possible. And I think that's why the Democrats need to run a very aggressive campaign to educate people on this. And this is why, in my opinion, one of the underrated things that works in the Democrats' favor is Mike Johnson. I think that, and I've been telling my friends who are Democratic strategists that they need to be raising the salience on him, because Mike Johnson does seem like a creepy, religious, anti-abortion radical who would pass through the House a 5-week ban or or something with no exceptions, right? And so I think that tying the two of them together is another thing that Democrats should be doing this year.
So now, if you were advising Joe Biden, if you were advising any Democrats as we head into 2024, what would you say with regard specifically to this issue of abortion?
Well, I think two things. One is the examples, the tangible stories, and Kamala's been pretty good on this recently. Actually, there's the example of the woman in Texas. The issues where a woman is having a miscarriage, but a doctor won't do it because the laws aren't clear, right? I think specific examples, specific stories are good. My other strategic advice is I think a lot of times when Democrats think about abortion and talk about abortion, they're thinking about the perspective for women. Obviously, it's a women's rights issue. Yeah. But from a voting perspective, there's a group of men out there that are not going to be so psyched about having to be dads against their will. Okay, you know what I mean? And I think there's a sense there. You talk about like the barstool conservative types.
Just going to say, I mean, this is the group of people, like the faction of Trump's constituency that are like most closely aligned with him. Like young men are definitely not a constituency that Democrats are just like rolling in it with, right? Right. And these are the people who all of a sudden, like to your exact point, that like 19 years old at a college party, and all of a sudden you have to be a dad in 9 months. That's probably not.
They're
gonna
not
fly.
thrilled about that. And that Dave Portnoy, who runs Barstool, has come out like pretty aggressively against the Roe v. Wade overturn. So to me, that is what I would be spending more. The Democratic strategists probably aren't like, man, I really need to do ads on Theo Von's podcast and Joe Rogan and Dave Portnoy, but like kind of, I think that should be a group that you really target with the abortion message so people know that this is real, like, and it's happening in other states where women are being forced to have babies that are forced to take pregnancies to term, that there are problems with, that there are health risks to, like all of this stuff is actually happening. And people that feel like that like young men in particular that don't feel like maybe that is something that they would have to face or an issue that they have to worry about. It's like, no, they need to be told that this is something that they have to worry about.
Well, there's going to be folks who hear you say that and say, like, what's the point of spending some of our limited resources on trying to reach like young white men? Yeah. Is the goal always to try to get, like, if we're advertising to that contingency, to that constituency, is the goal to get them to vote for Democrats or to depress turnout, for example, among like what would you think is the goal here? Is it always just to like turn a voter, or is it sometimes just to depress turnout among voters?
Yeah, either. I mean, getting somebody to be a non-Trump voter is good enough, right? Yeah. And that's a good start. And when we did Republican voters against Trump in 2020, there were two categories of people. Like we were looking at voters that maybe had voted for in 2016 for like Gary Johnson or the Libertarian and trying to push them into the Biden camp. And then there was another group of people that voted for Trump but didn't like him that much that we were trying to say, okay, just go ahead and throw your vote away, right? So, if you have a Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the ballot, like there are going to be some constituencies where that hurts Biden. But maybe with this constituency that could help him, Yeah. And I just, again, you think about the swing states, you think about Georgia. I'm thinking about like the grads from UGA, right? Like that crowd, they're going to be kind of Trumpy, but if you can get them to say, I'm going to throw my vote away on this one, the abortion thing, the January, the Trump stuff is just too extreme for me. That's a win for Democrats, even if they're not going to end up being the most reliable Democratic voter.
And let's finish off with this. In terms of the most potent issue that you can think of as we head into 2024, is it abortion as far as you would think?
I think that abortion is definitely going to be the Democrats' most potent issue when you think about these swing states. I mean, I think that at a frame level, at a narrative level, I think what's more important for Democrats is kind of like the crazy versus competent frame, or like the too risky frame about Trump, or all of that, like getting into Trump character extremism thing. I think that's more important than any particular issue. But if we're talking about a single particular issue and what's going to be most important for Democrats, it's definitely going to be abortion.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been harping on it. I know a lot of people have too, and for good reason here. So of course we'll have the advantage here of being able to watch this play out as we get closer toward November. With that said, for those of you who want to see more from Tim, make sure to subscribe to The Bulwark. That's his YouTube channel. I'll put the link right here on the screen and also in the post description of this video. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen.
I'm Tim Miller.
This is Inside the Right.